Yes, it is. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for waking up with us. We appreciate it. I'm Al Ganoza.
Sherry.
Today marks the deadline imposed by a federal judge requiring the Trump administration to reunite more than 100 immigrant children with their parents. But the administration won't be able to do that. Some of the kids' parents were already released, others have been deported, and some are in criminal custody. An ACLU attorney does not expect the Trump administration to face any consequences.
I think we're a long.
Today's deadline is not the last. The judge ordered the Trump administration to reunite more than 2,000 kids by July 26th. And here, closer to home for the rest of the summer, local and state police are cracking down on aggressive drivers. From now until August 26th, they are focusing on Adams, Cumberland, Dauphin, Franklin, Lancaster, Lebanon, and York counties. Police say they will be looking for people running red lights, tailgating, and speeding. The goal is to reduce the number of aggressive driving-related crashes. Some new neighbors are sliding into one Susquehanna Township area, and it's got some people concerned. 2 rattlesnakes were spotted in a yard in the Deer Path neighborhood off Lingelstown Road over the last few weeks. The State Fish and Boat Commission says it's mating season, and the snakes can travel up to 5 miles during this time of the year. Officials say if you see one, don't worry. Just step away slowly because they're just as scared as you are.
A lot more aggressive. Rattlesnakes are more timid, more shy. They want nothing to do with us.
Yeah, I hope they realize that. If you see a rattlesnake in your area, call the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission and they'll take care of it. But apparently you can't kill it. That's against the law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're protected.
But so slowly walk away?
Slowly walk
Yeah,
away.
Sure. Okay, Al.
Yeah. Calm. Right now, 46 local law enforcement agencies throughout south central Pennsylvania are teaming up with the state police to conduct an aggressive driving enforcement wave.
From now until
That's Look at Your Members First Traffic Alert. And now for another rousing edition of Ganoza Knows It with Big Al.
All right. Thank you, Ashley Honey. Well, I got a question from Frank G. asking why the state is not spraying for black flies anymore. Black flies are also known as gnats, among many other things. I'm glad Frank asked this question. I detest these little pests with a fire of 1,000 suns. They can make the time outside miserable. Frank said they are bad this year, and I agree, but I did not realize the state was not spraying anymore, so I reached out to the Department of Environmental Protection. Spokesman Neil Shader responded and explained that DEP, who's that jerk, has been conducting sprayings of major river systems for black flies throughout the spring and summer. The weather this year has prevented some planned spraying activities from occurring. I didn't know that. As high flows in the rivers dilute the treatments too much to be effective. He says the department surveys black fly larva populations regularly to determine where and when to spray, although again the exact timing of the treatments is highly dependent on weather. DEP has a black fly complaint form on its website. You can call 1-800-541-2050. Please mention me as a reference for that complaint.
800-541-2050. I don't know if they're up yet, but I got it locked and loaded.
Thank you. Now, I've tried spray to keep them off me.
Didn't work.
Doesn't work. My next step is napalm. I'm looking for a flamethrower on eBay or at a yard sale.
Ow.
I will keep
You
you
should
posted.
not be trusted with a flamethrower.
Why? Are they dangerous?
You're dangerous.
But very Christian.
And I'm Al Ganoza. Here's what is happening in the news today. NFL player, former Bishop McDevitt football star LaShawn McCoy accused in a violent attack on his ex-girlfriend. We're live with how the Harrisburg native is responding to the allegations. All right, thank you, Michael. Happening today, President Trump kicks off a high-stakes trip around Europe today. During the NATO summit, he's expected to push for more equal defense spending and fairer trade. CBS News correspondent Laura Podesta reports on some of the concerns with these meetings. Happening now, an initiative to reduce plastic waste in Lancaster. CBS 21's Erica Such tells us how business owners feel about the change and why the city thinks it's an important step forward. Today, members of the Wolf administration will highlight the importance of protecting yourself while you are outside. Officials want to remind people the importance of using bug spray and being aware of vectors like ticks and mosquitoes. They will also discuss the funding going toward protection against Lyme disease, Zika virus, and West Nile in Pennsylvania. And speaking of that, today crews will be spraying for mosquitoes in both Penn Township and West Manheim Township in York County. Officials say samples collected during the past 2 weeks continue to indicate high mosquito populations, and some samples have tested positive for West Nile virus.
Well, the video.
President Trump is in Brussels for 2 days of meetings with NATO leaders. Mr. Trump said he expects the summit will be a difficult one. In recent days, the president has chided European leaders for not spending more on defense. All right, good morning, everybody, and thanks for waking up with us. I'm Al Ganoza. Sherry has the day off. Here's what's happening in the news today. Scorching temperatures sweeping across large parts of the United States. Some health risks that come along with a heat wave and how you can stay cool. All right, Ashley and Chris, our top story this morning is this heat wave, and this stretch of hot weather is not only uncomfortable for many of us, it can also be dangerous. That's especially true for seniors, and that is why the Department of Aging is now stepping in. CBS 21's Brendan Kinney is live at a cooling center in Dauphin County this morning. Brendan, it's not just here in central PA that has people feeling the heat. Many Americans are heading into the 4th of July holiday facing near record high temps. Hot and humid weather has swept over the East Coast, but in Iowa, CBS News correspondent Laura Podesta reports on torrential rain that is responsible for the death of at least one man. It is the decision NBA fans have waited weeks for. LeBron James is leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers to join the Los Angeles Lakers. According to his agent, James signed a 4-year, $154 million contract. This is the second time he's left his hometown during his 15-year career. He first left in 2010 to join the Miami Heat, causing widespread outrage. This time around, his fans are much more forgiving since he won them a championship in 2016. Well, they are two of the biggest names in tennis, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. Fans hope both are at the top of their game when Wimbledon begins in a few days. It's that battle that is the center of a new Tennis Channel documentary called Strokes of Genius. Legendary player John McEnroe talks about the differences between Federer and Nadal. Strokes of Genius will air on the CW July 8th at 8 p.m. and July 15th at 4:30. Well, it's the end of an era and a sign of the times. The once popular item you'll no longer be able to buy at a nationwide retailer.
That's a look at your members first. Traffic alert.
All right, Ashley and Chris. Well, the DEP is issuing a Code Orange Air Quality Action Day for several counties in our region. Basically, that means the combination of heat and humidity across eastern PA will lead to an increase in ozone levels. On Air Quality Action Days, young children, the elderly, and those with respiratory problems such as asthma, emphysema, and bronchitis should limit outdoor activities. To keep air healthy, people are encouraged to do things like refuel cars and trucks after dusk, set air conditioner thermostats to a higher temp, and carpool or use public transportation. Well, if you don't have access to air conditioning, there are cooling centers set up across Dauphin County. CBS 21's Brendan Kinney is live in Lower Paxton Township with other ways that the Department of Aging is helping to keep people safe. Brendan.
At 32, I just wanted to be comfortably numb.
Christine Shanahan says she turned to heroin several years ago to deal with mounting pressure in her life, which in turn added even more pressure.
I would do retail thefts to get heroin because I had no money.
Christine's addiction soon got her arrested, and she went to state prison. It's been a common pathway.
65% of the men and women inside the institutions have a diagnosis as it relates to some sort of substance abuse. Probably 80% are substance abuse involved.
It's a problem the PA Department of Corrections is trying to meet head on in the prisons and through its community corrections centers, like this one on Cameron Street in Harrisburg. Inmates may be transferred here as part of their parole or probation. The challenge has been made tougher by the surge in opioid use. Toward that end, the DOC has started using medication-assisted treatments.
And we're looking to expand that to the full range of treatments, including methadone, Suboxone, as well as Vivitrol, which is already in place in some of our institutions.
The DOC also contracts out to several rehab centers, like Gaudenzia in Harrisburg. The key here and at the Harrisburg Community Corrections Center is structure and no idle time.
If we have them stop using drugs and we pull that chunk of time out of their day, we have to replace it with something else.
Gaudenzia's Matt Knoll acknowledges they can't watch their clients 24 hours a day. Many don't live on site. But there is testing, and Gaudenzia is focused on signals that someone is relapsing.
If a client does slip up, we do have a lot of leverage, like, hey, you stick with the program or you're going back to jail.
Christine Shanahan has praise for Gaudenzia, but has issues with a few of the other facilities she has gone to, like Adapt in Reading.
People were dying there of using heroin.
Statistics provided by the Department of Corrections showed there were 5 fatal overdoses at Adapt in 2017, the most of any facility. There were 19 deadly overdoses across the state in 2017. There have been 5 so far this year. But the DOC points out that 4 of them were state intermediate punishment individuals who did not reside at any center and only reported to those locations as required. The stats also show an 84% jump in overdoses in general from 2016 to 2017, with huge spikes coming at 2 Philadelphia facilities and the renewal facilities in Pittsburgh. The Kentuck Erie Avenue Center in Philly had 4 ODs in 2016 and 26 last year.
Overdoses are unfortunately a part of it, especially with the opioids.
If there are issues with any of the contractors, the DOC says it will end relationships or shut down centers until certain standards are met. Still, the recovery process is not an easy one anywhere, and it's not perfect.
Relapse is a part of the disease, so unfortunately, some of those individuals do relapse while they're in our facilities.
The fight against relapse takes many forms, like this full body scanner at the Wernersville Community Corrections Center, which makes it almost impossible to sneak in anything. They also strive to keep drugs out of the prisons. George Little says it's more than just an issue of public safety.
Well, we're looking at this one reentrant at a time, one person, one family at a time, and we think if we can make that difference, then the Commonwealth will be a better place for all of us.
Meanwhile, Christine Shanahan is sober and says she has turned her life around, but she is still looking for a job. She's worried that her record has turned off potential employers. Guys, back to you.
Coal mines were opened in central Pennsylvania in the 1800s, and small communities with basic housing sprang up quickly to accommodate the workers. A mine was opened in Cold Spring Township, Lebanon County in 1823. 5 years later, another one was opened at Roush Gap. By 1851, a railroad was built to connect Roush Gap to Dauphin Borough. The local coal boom did not last long, however. The mining industry in the region came to a halt by the early 1900s. The towns were soon deserted and left to wither away. But there are still traces to be uncovered. We enlisted the help of the Susquehanna Appalachian Trail Club and their members, Cindy Raddick and Gail Brossman. They took us on the Stony Valley Rail Trail in search of the ghost town of Rattling Run, Dauphin County.
Make sure you have some sturdy footwear on and bring lots of water.
You can access this part of the trail by taking Stony Creek Road north from Dauphin, then onto a dirt road which will end at the trail. Getting to Rattling Run definitely is a hike, about 6 or 7 miles total.
The first 5 is a relatively flat, well-maintained rail trail.
We are walking where the railroad used to sit. These stone structures actually used to hold spare rails for track repair. At 5+ miles, we hang a left and go up a steep and sometimes rocky piece. My biggest concern, seeing a rattlesnake.
You will encounter some snakes. They usually are not interested in you, but if by chance they're on the path and you would actually get close to one, you should just probably make a long circle around it.
Actually, the worst I saw was a baby ringneck snake. Not too bad. I found some articles about Rattling Run. They apparently had a baseball team in the late 1800s, and there was a fight among coal workers in June of 1889. Andy Parker was arrested. He claimed self-defense. We did see some remnants of what could be an old town. This may have been a well of some sort, and we saw some possible foundations of homes. 1 week later, I took a hike to the other end of the trail, starting at Gold Mine Road north of Interstate 81. 3.5 miles into the trail, I found the ghost town of Roush Gap. It's right before this bridge that goes over Roush Creek. I saw plenty of old foundations to the left of the trail. The town declined in 1872 when the railroad headquarters moved from here to Pine Grove. The town became virtually deserted by 1900. And finally, one more jaunt to find the remains of the town of Cold Springs. It's just a couple of miles past Roush Gap. Back in the day, Cold Springs used to be a popular resort for the well-to-do. They either got there by train or stagecoach. This was a good one. The remains are more pronounced, and there are foundations that remain from the big hotel. Just a few feet away is another big structure. Other foundations were just a short distance away from that. The hotel caught fire in September of 1900 under what had been listed as suspicious circumstances. All I could find in the local papers was this brief mention. The hotel had already closed as the town had begun to lose popularity. Al Ganoza, CBS 21 News.